Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Grit to Glory Radio. I'm so excited to be here with you all today. Hope you were coming off the back end of a couple of things, actually. One, if you're in America, for sure you're aware of that the Super Bowl just happened yesterday. So if you're somebody that was rooting for, whether it was the 49ers or if it was for the Chiefs, I hope that you had a great time and that you enjoyed some time with your family and that, the halftime show was everything that you hoped that it would be. I feel like those are like the most common topics. If I'm being really honest, I think it's actually kind of fun in the aspect of that there really is kind of like a lot of unity, if you will, around the Super Bowl. I always kind of like to go to my social media and everybody's got an opinion, right? And I kind of look for it. I scroll for it, or I'll post something to ask, an engaging question. And it's because I really want to know. I really enjoy sparking the conversation. I enjoy hearing different people's perspectives or, just all the different things, all the commercials, they're not great, or that halftime show was amazing. I actually personally think that Usher crushed it. I was super excited. I mean, obviously, I'm probably showing my age a little bit here, given that I'm a millennial. But I'm just going to tell you, whenever Little John took the stage and all the things, I was like, let's go. So, to the point that I was prompted to then go to my social media and, say something cheesy like, man, somebody called the fire department because that halftime performance was on fire, right? So anyway, I think I just went off on a little tangent there, but I'm so curious. You guys can drop me a line, let me know. What did you do for the Super Bowl? Who were you cheering for? And what'd you think of the halftime show? Now, obviously, that's not really the intention of this podcast or even this episode today. I do have some things I want to share with you guys. I feel like this is kind of one of those episodes, and to be completely honest with you, a lot of times it really is like this. My intention for this podcast is for it to be obviously that there's value that is being poured into your life in some sort of way, whether it's a new thought or it's a new strategy or it's a new tactic or it's inspiration or if it's motivation or if it's the gumption that you need to just go one more round, whatever it is for you as you're listening in on the episode on any given day. However, I also really want it to be this case in which that it's we're sharing a cup of coffee across from one another and we're just kind of talking. I really enjoy that. I think it's just something super special to me, and I hope that it will feel super special for you. So the other thing is we also came off this weekend and celebrating my oldest daughter, our oldest daughter, if you will, her 18th birthday. And I will tell you that there has not been any shortage of emotion as we've been navigating that, and that she is 18. And, it really took me down memory lane, if you will, and reminiscing just so many things. I was 19 when I became a mom, the mom of Rebecca. And it was a scary time. And to be honest, you see those memes sometimes and they talk about how oftentimes your firstborn is the one that, yes, you're raising. And also they're really there to also watch as you mess up a lot, and you don't always get it right. And, being a young mom at 19, I was 19 because she was born February 5th. And actually, interestingly enough, it was on the Super Bowl the year that the Steelers won the Super Bowl. And so I was 19. My birthday's in April. So I was just shy of being 20. But whenever she entered the world and came in, I was 19. So anyway, with that said, and I might even share more about that at another time. However, we just got off the back end of just honestly having such a remarkable, just celebration for her and with her friends and hosting and just really going above and beyond to make her feel special. It's one of those things I think that, for me, I guess for any parent, it's scary. You don't really realize how fast it's going to go until all of a sudden you're gosh, man, where did the time go? Which I think is one of these things that where I've been able to grasp wisdom in that everything and every moment really does count. And even the small moments that you think aren't really going to count are going to be much of what really did count. And it's not this thing either of like once they turn 18 that you're like, oh, well, that's done, you know? Because I mean, Rebecca, she's still working on so many things. She's still in high school. She's also dual enrolled with the college here, the local community college. And she's really just doing phenomenal. I'm so proud of her. And just not just all the things that she does, but also who she is as a person. She's compassionate and loving and bright and introspective and innovative and funny and has such a beautiful like innocence and like lightness to her. Incredible attention to detail, like next level. However, it's not one of those things. So yeah, we're still on the path, you know, and it's one of these things where I realize that, you know, even with her being 18 and it being this year, you know, when I think about it, I'm like, this really is like the year of Rebecca, you know, because I mean, it's like she turns 18. She is, you know, getting ready to go to college. We've been touring colleges, you know, doing different things. We've got grad parties and travel plans and, you know, just lots of things to really help her, well, support her and help her, and also for her to receive recognition and just how big of like the accomplishment is that she has been pursuing, you know. And I'm always a super huge you know, what is it, not candidate, the word's not coming to me right now, but I always, for any time, for any reason, even the smallest things, even on day to day, but I'm always down for a celebration. Okay. So this year much is all about that in a lot of ways. Like the context is for her and witnessing her and celebrating her and supporting her and getting over different finish lines and pacing with her and all the things. And so obviously alongside of other things as well. However, that is a big portion of the context for the year of 2024. So it's one of these things though, like whenever, as I was navigating the emotions of having a daughter that is just turned 18, obviously there's a lot of reflection. There's sadness, there's happiness, there's hopefulness, there's joyfulness, there's gratitude. Whole array of emotions happen. And they did. And I think what I've realized is it's not one of those things though where it's like one day when they turn 18 that you're like, oh, okay, well, I'm done. Like my job is done here. You're never going to need me ever again. Like, you know, like just different things, or you're never going to come see me. And my heart and hope is that even once we get her settled in a college in the fall and all the things, which we have a decision letter for the one that we're really hoping for coming on, well, this week on the 15th. So here in a couple days, we'll know. So cross your fingers and send prayers and good vibes and all the things for that. That is exactly as it should be. So yeah, we hope that you know, they'll come back and they'll see us and they'll visit us, and that we loved them enough and that we built a relationship with them enough that past the point of which that they have to be around you, that they choose to be around you, you know. So time will tell. And you know, I'm just speaking like realness as like parent to parent, or you know, if you're a parent and you're listening to this, or you know, in some cases you might have been, obviously most likely you've been 18 at some point and you know, navigated that as well, and whether it was with your guardian or your parents or whatever that looked like for you. So this wasn't what this podcast was intention was to be about for the bulk of this, but I'll say that I think there is that realization of most likely she's always, you know, she's always going to want us in her life. You know, we're going to go on to like share wisdom and be there to guide. And it's not one of these things where it's like done now per se, even though your mind might try to tell you that. It's also like this thing of, well, it's actually just like the next season now. And we're going to be stepping into like a lot of brand new things. I was writing a post on my social media in celebration and of honor of her. And in reflection of that, I was thinking about like all the first, you know, the first walk, the first scoots, that the scoots happen before the walks, the scoots happen before the crawls, you know, when she rolled over, the first noises, she used to like to scream a lot, if we're being honest. So those, let's see here, just all the first, the runs, the when she go running through the house, climbing the stairs, the scribbles, the first day of the first day of school, dropping her off, recording her running into the doors. I remember when she was going to school out in Colorado, her first day there, and running up to the front door. And actually, on her birthday, I actually took her to school, to the campus that day. I took her to breakfast and things like that. And it was so interesting because I remember I rolled down my window. She got out of the car. She was going over to one of the buildings that she was going to be having class in that morning. And I started recording her. And I thought to myself, like, gosh, man, how things have changed. Because I remembered that little girl that was running through the front doors of, Colorado Springs Christian School all those years ago. And now here she is running around on the campus. I might get a little emotional just even talking about that. So, anyway, with all that said, I am realizing, and that's how life is, right? It's like ebbs and flows, and it's not the end, it's just the next season. And so we've been like really reflecting and navigating that. And over the last weekend, we just had a great time, like with her and with family and with her friends, just really taking a moment to celebrate and honor her. She made us also a really beautiful breakfast. Her and her friend did, one of her really good friends. They got up and they made oh my gosh, this breakfast was phenomenal. Like, she crushed it. Her and her friend made an amazing breakfast, which I guess kind of leads me into what it's kind of like what was on my heart to talk about today. Obviously, I'm looking at I don't know if you guys do this, but oftentimes I will look at on this day on like Facebook. And I think it was yesterday, I looked at on this day, and one of the posts that I made several years ago read, "You can't bake a cake just by reading the recipe." And I was like, man, that's so good, And it got me to thinking, though, it actually got me thinking about even like doing an assessment of my life of like, where am I just reading the recipe? How often can we be guilty of, overly educating ourselves or listening to the same, the same podcast or the same module, or not that I'm such a proponent of continuation of learning all the time. However, there's just never the integration of anything that we're learning oftentimes. And I heard this really interesting way of that being explained. And basically what they said was, they said kind of in a way, they actually blame the education system in that what we're really kind of taught as society is that we learn and 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 learn. And then once we graduate, whatever stage it is that we're graduated from, then that's when we're qualified enough to actually go do the job, and then we'll never learn again. And that's just actually not the way that it is. The way that it really is, from my perspective, is that I'm going to be obviously an ongoing lifelong learner. And I thought the way this was also explained, it just really got me thinking. I was like, well, of course, so basically what I'm saying is, if you're somebody that you have been waiting to put something out into the world, whether it's a course, whether it's opening a Facebook group, whether it's starting a podcast, whatever it is, whether it's writing a book, whether it's writing an article and submitting it to a magazine or a newspaper, whether it's putting on a local workshop, whatever that looks like for you, and you have pretty much got all the steps to it. You're like, okay, this is what I need to do. However, you're like stuck in what we call like the innovation at the speed of thought, meaning that you're always just thinking about it and thinking about it and getting ready and getting ready and getting ready. I will tell you that what's going to be most effective is that you go ahead and you go do something. You go and you take an inspired action to then allow it for the next step to then unfold. And because, so often people will keep themselves from actually going all in on the action because there's a lot of different reasons, but perceived disappointment, fear of failure, those types of things. However, it's a lot easier for you to go and you can course correct or even make it and refine it and make it more ideal in the way that it is in your head, if you will, if you'll just go take that first step. And I thought this way that I'm going to share with you right now was a really incredible way, and the way we explain this too. And it's almost like a way in which that you can permission yourself to take the action that you're more or less avoiding because you continuously just keep reading the recipe, if you will, versus baking the cake. And that is this concept of, when you think about hiring a doctor for your medical care and your medical needs, or maybe it's for something, a specialty type thing, would it make you feel more comfortable that you hired the doctor and they went through all the education and things, and they've never continued to study anything from the point that they graduated. Okay, think about it that way. Like, they did go through all the education, they got their degree in whatever that was. They that was done, and they just never studied, read a book, stayed up on innovation within that field. Nothing. Or would it make you feel better that they did go ahead and go into practicing, and they are practicing? However, they've made it a priority to not only practice, however, also to prioritize. Obviously, most likely you're going to pick the latter of the two. You're going to pick the one that is got done the education, and they've also prioritized ongoing professional development. And I think that that's the thing, that sometimes whenever people are like, they've got this idea, they've got this mission, they've got this vision, they've got this next step, but yet they're kind of stuck in analysis paralysis. And it's not necessarily that they don't know what to do. Now, if you really don't know what to do, then you also know your next step, and that is that you need to go find out what your next step is that you do need to do. And in which case, when you find that out, go do that and then find out what the next step is, okay? However, I think that's just such a cool way to look at this. If obviously you would look and you would say, okay, yeah, I would prefer to have the doctor that is going to continue to do the ongoing education and professional development. They're going to stay up to date on the things in their field and within their specialty. And also they're going to continue to practice. They're not going to just take like all this time off because they're like, oh, well, now I've got to study for however much long and then I'll get to practice again, because both teaches you things. There's the practical and the theoretical. There's theoretical where they're reading and they're learning and it's innovative. And there's also the practice in which that they are putting it into play. And then they get to refine and learn and grow and see what's going to work best for their own experience. And so I share that with you today because if there is something that you've been just kind of holding back on, that you know that you should go ahead and take the next step, and you feel confident that you know the next step, but really it's just because it feels kind of scary. And I totally understand that, because honestly, these things can be scary, 100%. I want to invite you to just take the next step. Take the next step and understand that it would make sense that, like, even as you're taking that step, allow yourself to ask questions, allow yourself to have a mentor, if you don't have a mentor, and if that feels aligned for you. I'll tell you, mentorship is something that like completely has changed my life. I wouldn't go into, in my opinion, I wouldn't go into any year without a mentor. And so having a mentor, I feel like it collapses, decades into days. However, it's very difficult for a mentor to really fully, and for you to even really pull the most you can from that mentor whenever there's just a lot of stagnation. They teach you, they tell you, this is what the next step is. And if there is then no action put in play towards that, because you're kind of thinking about it all the time versus doing anything, it creates stagnation, and you're kind of not allowing yourself, through not permissioning yourself, to really gain all the wisdom that you could from that mentor. So that's what I have for you today. This episode is a little bit all over the place. I totally get that. And also, I'm going to believe and trust that whatever was meant to come through and land for you did today. I'd love for you to share with me what your biggest takeaways were. And if you haven't already opted into the Grit to Glory Breakthrough Challenge, we're still doing that right now for just a bit longer. I'm telling you that we're also building up to something really cool and really exciting. I can't wait for us to actually share with you what it is. We've been kind of like leaking some things on social media, on Facebook, within the Grit to Glory community Facebook group as well. If you're not there, you can see and find that in the show notes. If this was valuable to you though, or if you feel like that there was something said here that would bless somebody else, we can't reach everybody, certainly by ourselves. We just want to invite you to share the podcast. Share the podcast. Tag at Charity Michelle Schaefer. Love for you to give feedback. If you love this podcast and you're just like super on fire about it, and you're like, this is amazing, and I love whenever new episodes drop and it's added value to your life, I want to invite you as well to leave a 5-star review, subscribe to the podcast, and we look so you never miss an episode as we drop them. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.